What is up, everybody? This is Seth KNIEP, Keeping It Real. Today I'm going to teach you how to get a trademark so that you can get your brand registered on Amazon, so that you can protect yourself from hijackers. Okay. Hijackers can hide. This is why I'm trying to tell you. Oh, I gotta get away from these hijackers. Perfect. Okay, I think we're safe to teach this now. Today, I'm gonna give you 6 steps on how to get trademarked so that you can get your Amazon brand registered on Amazon's platform. Step number 1, decide whether or not you actually need a trademark. Now, a lot of people think, well, Seth, of course I need one, that's why you're teaching this, but I want you to understand it's actually not essential to get a trademark to build a profitable online business, even on Amazon. It has advantages, but now may not be the right time for you. For example, let's say you're really low on funds and you have just enough to launch that first product. In this situation, I recommend you save that money to launch your product. Once you have funds coming in, you can use those funds to go get your trademark. Now, trademarks can be pretty expensive or pretty cheap depending on what method you choose. And today I'm going to teach you exactly what those 4 methods are and maybe a secret 5th one as well. So you don't have to get a trademark to build a brand. You can actually start on Amazon and start selling, and there are ways to protect your brand name even without a trademark. Now, let me walk you through the advantages of a trademark. Number 1 advantage is trademarking adds credibility to your brand. Simply by having that registered circle with the R right there as a superscript after the end of your brand name, that adds a certain amount of clout and authority to your brand. You can get that little circle with the R once you're trademarked. And if you ever see someone using that and they're not trademarked, they could get in serious legal trouble. It'll also scare off hijackers. If people are starting to latch onto your listing, but they see that trademark, it does give you a certain sense of authority and intimidation to people who are trying to sell under your specific trademarked brand. Second reason you have a massive advantage with a trademark is trademarking gives you exclusive rights. In other words, if someone ever tried to sell under your trademark, for example, let's just say the name of your trademark is McGee Giggles, and you sell toys and gifts like for a gag shop, but it's all online. If you're trademarked under the toys and sporting goods classification, which is the United States Patent Trademark Office category that would be fitting for this kind of product, and you notice that someone else with McGee Giggles or a similar sounding brand name, thus it could cause confusion, is selling under the same category, then you know that they are breaking the law, and you have legal rights to go and contest that and have them to stop selling under your trademarked brand name. Here's where it gets really cool. Even if you don't have a trademark, but you've been using that brand name and they go and get that trademarked, but they weren't selling under that brand name previously, you still have the right to get them to stop. This is called first rights use under common law, and it's something you can take advantage of. Third advantage to getting a trademark is it gives you remedies for unauthorized use. In other words, if someone else is selling on your listing, which is going to be under your trademark, or anywhere else in e-commerce or on Amazon under your trademark name or a name that sounds similar, you have legal rights to send them a cease and desist letter. And by the way, you don't even have to hire a lawyer to send a cease and desist letter. You're not pretending to be a lawyer. You can just say, look, stop. You can't do this. This is breaking the law. You are going against my rights. You can even take them to court or have a lawyer send them a letter and say, look, I need payment and compensation for the funds that I lost because you are selling under my trademarked brand name. There are many other options you can use as well if someone is starting to use your trademark. Number 4, trademarking can give you authority at the port. I am talking about when your products are shipped from China or wherever you're sourcing, and they're coming through those customs, port authorities can stop them from coming in if they find them to be counterfeit products because your trademark has so much brand recognition. This happens a lot with better known brand names, and there's no reason you shouldn't think there. I mean, if you think big, you will go big. Fifth advantage, trademarking allows you to apply for brand registry for your brand on Amazon. This gives you a huge advantage. This means you can have A+ content, which means your listing will be 3 times more beautiful and convert far better than those who don't have brand registry. In addition, you have brand analytics, which gives you various levels of search volume for keywords. It gives you more tools so that you can protect your brand name more easily and get those hijackers who are trying to steal your hard work and swipe you from the stuff you're working on. It gives you an authority and a power to get them off your listing. Much better than if you are not brand registered. But to be brand registered, you have to have a trademark. Now, let me give you 2 reasons very specifically why you don't need a trademark. As I mentioned before, you can still build a very strong brand on Amazon without a trademark. If you are limited on funds, there's no reason why you can't wait. And as you begin to make money, you can use that money to go pay for your trademark, get it registered, and then later, you can add that on, and all of a sudden you have a brand, but you protected the brand name the whole way. And this is where people get nervous because they go, well, Seth, I have a brand name. I love this brand name. How can I be sure that no one else is gonna sell under this brand name if I don't get trademarked now? The biggest protection to your brand name is not the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is not getting a trademark. It is not a patent. It is not a copyright. It is selling under that brand name. When you sell under your brand name, under common law, you get what's called first rights use, which means you get exclusive authority to use that brand name in that category. Now, obviously, if someone else is using a similar or the same brand name for a different product category, there's no conflict of interest. There is no cause of confusion for buyers, and they can do that. Take the word Delta. Now, you probably think of airlines when you hear Delta. Actually, Delta is also a brand name that is trademarked with the exact same letters for faucets. I'm talking about those little things in your sink where water comes out of them. You have Delta faucets and you have Delta Airlines, but they're both a brand name that is trademarked. The reason there's no conflict of interest or confusion or legal problem is because they are 2 different brand categories. So all you need to do, if you need to wait, is start selling under that brand name. Get your logo, get your brand name, sell under it after you've made sure that no one else is selling under the same brand name for the same product category, and then later on, you can get your trademark. Now, I want to give you something for free today that you can use just in case you notice one day that your sales are coming in really fast, and then all of a sudden they stop. And you go to your listing and you notice some random Amazon seller is selling on your listing. That's called hijacking. They're pretending to be a legal buyer and reseller. Of course, Amazon doesn't know the difference, but you can use this cease and desist letter to scare them. 80% of the time, it works. This is why getting brand registered will help you a ton because it will give you more credibility in Amazon's eyes to back you when you say, look, this is my trademark name. They can't sell it under my trademark. So if you click on the link below, jod.com/cease, CEASE, this letter you can use to scare off those hijackers. It's extremely effective. Step number 2 for getting a trademark so you can get brand registered. You need to decide what mark you're gonna get trademarked. Now, there's a lot of confusion about this, so let me just use Nike as a perfect example. Nike has all 3 mark types, the 3 main ones. There are some other random ones, but the 3 most important. They have their slogan, just do it. They have their logo, the swoosh, and they have the words Nike, N-I-K-E, Nike. You're going to trademark your word mark. In other words, Nike is a word mark. Design mark would be the logo. And the slogan, of course, is also trademarkable, but the most important one to trademark is the word Nike if you were Nike, or McGee's Giggles and Gifts if that's your brand name that you want to get trademarked. Now, why is that important? Well, number 1, logos tend to change over time. You may have even noticed that Just When Dime's logo has changed over time from the original to the next, but the name has continued to be Just One Dime. And we are trademarked all in Europe, the entire European Union, and Canada, and the US, and other places around the world. So your logo may change, but your name tends not to change. And when you trademark it, you're gonna get it trademarked in all caps. Let's just say McGee Giggles, you're not gonna spell all the words. The M and the first G are gonna be capitalized, but when you trademark it, you're gonna trademark all the letters in capital, because that means it's also protected if you use lowercase as well. So you will trademark the word mark, not the design mark and not the slogan. You can get those other things trademarked later on if you want. This is the most important one, and this is the one Amazon needs in order to get brand registered. Step number 3, come up with a trademarkable brand name. Now, how do I know if a brand name is trademarkable? Well, there's a very simple graph I'm gonna share with you right here. I want you to notice a couple things about this graph. First, it begins with descriptive. Then it moves to suggestive, and then fanciful. Descriptive would be a word like KitchenAid because it's describing the products. That is the least trademarkable. In other words, the USPTO office, in other words, United States Patent Trademark Office, is most likely to deny that because it's a much more of a common everyday word. Now notice in the middle you have suggestive. An example of that would be Ray-Ban because it's banning the sun. Ray-Ban sunglasses. That's a little more trademarkable but less descriptive. And then on the far right, you have strong, which is fanciful. This is the most powerful. This could be a random word or something based on geography or a person's name, like McGee Giggles. Now, Giggles is descriptive, but McGee is not. So when you put them together, you'll have a higher chance, if they're together, of getting that name trademarked than if it was just Gifts and Giggles. You see where I'm going? The idea is this: you can't get rights to a word that people use in everyday common language. So try to be more fanciful and less descriptive when you pick that name. That means it's defendable. Number 2, choose a unique brand name. Now you might be thinking, well, Seth, how do I know what a unique brand name is? Let me just give you an example. If you go to Namelix.com, and I'm actually just gonna type in toys, and let's do gifts, and I hit generate. Now you see right here already, I have a ton of ideas: Eries, Givery, Delighty, Twishes, Gifts Lab, Lavishery, if it's more of a lavish gift. See, this is already giving you ideas on how you can pick out a name that fits the theme, the vision, the heart of your company. So this is a great place to start if you're looking for ideas. Step number 4, conduct what is called a high-level search for the brand name. Now, what I mean by high-level search is you're gonna make sure that no one else is using that same brand name for the same product category. One of my favorite places to go for this is KnowEm. So let's go right here and type in McGee Giggles. Let's make sure no one else is using this name for the same product category that you wanna sell in. So as I go through here, I notice, okay, invalid name. Okay, I know why. They do not want a space, so let me hit search again. Because for example, if it's a domain name, it's gonna be mcgeegiggles.com. You can't have a space in a domain name. That's the idea. All right. Okay, now very quickly, I can see what's available and what isn't. Blogger's available, BuzzFeed's is available, Etsy's available, Facebook is available. I mean, there's a lot of liberty on this one. In fact, it even gives me the most popular domain extensions just in case .com isn't there, but .com is there. McGeegiggles.com has been purchased by no one. So this is already quickly telling me there's probably no one selling gifts or gas or those kinds of products under a name that is the same as or sounds like or could be confused with this name, McGee Giggles. So that's a high-level search, also called a knockout search. I'm just making sure I'm free to use it. Step number 5. Now that I'm confident my brand name's defendable, no one's using it for the same product category, this is where you're going to decide whether you're going to file with intent to use or in use. Now, what's the difference? Intent to use simply means I'm not using the brand name yet, but I intend to use it in the near future. This will take longer and cost a little more with registering your trademark. In fact, it'll take about 6 months longer on average. There's a 6-month period where you have a chance to start using it, and then you have to send proof to the United States Patent and Trademark Office, in other words, uspto.gov, where you would apply for the trademark. Now, if you aren't using it yet, you can actually move quickly to number 2, and that's in use. In other words, even if you aren't using McGee-Giggles yet, go ahead and open a very simple website using Shopify. It's super low cost. All you need is the logo, the brand name, list one product. You don't even have to have it buyable yet. Just list it, have a product on there, throw in a picture just to show this is yours. And then as you start selling in Amazon, always use your brand name. And put TM right after it in superscript because it's letting the world know that you are claiming you intend to trademark this brand name. And then after, once you are registered as a trademark, you can change it to the R with the circle around it. This is really a good move because it'll not only save you money if you apply as in use versus intent to use, it'll also save you time. It'll shave up to 6 months off the process. You can go either way, but I recommend in use. You just need to demonstrate proof that you started. Step number 6, choose one of the 4 ways to get your brand name registered as a trademark. Option number 1, you can file for your trademark yourself. Now, I'm not gonna walk you through every single step. If you want us to teach you how to do that, we go super in depth on this at jod.com/freedom, where you can apply for us to work with you and teach you how to do this yourself. But I will tell you this, if you go to uspto.gov and you go to that website, you're gonna see a part where it says trademarks. You hover over and it says apply online. You can follow through the steps, and an examiner from the United States Patent and Trademark Office will work with you and tell you what the next steps are. Now, it's gonna cost you at least $250 per classification. If you're selling a gift, you need it to be in the classification of toys and sporting goods, but you might also add on a couple other classifications to be safe that would also fit for your gift. Keep in mind, as a general rule, when people get a trademark for a particular product, they're gonna pick usually 2 to 3 classes. Like if it was golf gloves and they're leather, you might put it under the classification leather goods, but also sporting goods. See what I mean? Because it applies to both. So keep that in mind. So you're gonna spend a minimum of $250 paying for the class. This is if you do it yourself. This is the least cost option, but it's the most risky because you might make a mistake when the examiner from uspto.gov comes back and says, okay, I need you to fill out this form, or I need you to answer this question. And sometimes they use legalese that most people are not used to. Now, I've done this myself. I've done it many different ways. It will take longer, it'll take more time. If you don't have a lot of money, but you're really urgent to get the trademark and you have time on your hands, take this method. Just do it very carefully. Your second option is to hire a service such as LegalZoom to do it for you. LegalZoom can do this and only costs $250. Now, the risk is a little less than if you apply yourself, but there still is a fair amount of risk because you are not a lawyer, and so some questions they ask or things they ask you to do, if you do them incorrectly, you can mess it up. But with LegalZoom, they are lawyers, they know what they're doing. But keep one thing in mind, this is not their specialty. This is not the main thing they do. Therefore, your risk is still higher, and they're not gonna be as custom as hiring a lawyer. It's more automated. They're set up to scale. They want to get you in and out as fast as possible. So don't expect a super personalized service if you use a trademark service to get your trademark. Option number 3 is hire a lawyer. Now, I'm talking about a trademark lawyer. Now, I mentioned to you that a trademark service will cost another extra $250, sometimes $500 more. If you hire a lawyer, it's going to cost you around $1,000, maybe up to $1,500 just for the lawyer. This is the best option for you if you have more capital, but less time. Now remember, if you want to wait on this, you can. The key is that you start selling under your trademark name after you've made sure no one else is selling in the same category for the same kind of products, under the same kind of name or something that sounds similar. But in the meantime, if you say, you know what, I want to do this the best way possible to make sure I get as much custom service as possible, this is a great option. Option number 4. Use Amazon's IP Accelerator. I'm actually gonna go there because I have to show you guys this. This is so cool. Amazon IP Accelerator is the best method if you're trying to get brand registered fast. You don't want to spend more money than hiring a lawyer. It's about the same price, but you still get to work with a lawyer. I mean, this is awesome. I've done this method and it works great. Click on Get Started under the IP Accelerator Brand Services page, and we'll include a link below. You can literally shop for the best trademark service lawyer you can find to get trademarked. Now, in my experience, the best move is to find someone who doesn't have a ton of reviews, but they have at least 4.3, 4.5 star ratings or higher. If they have a ton of reviews, it takes them forever to get back to you because they're busy. But if they have good ratings, but not as many reviews, they're hungry for business, they have a lot of incentive to do a great job. What you do is you go to here, you click on them, and you go through the application process. It'll have you log into your Seller Central account, you follow the steps, and what I love about it is they already understand Amazon. They already know brand registry, so they're gonna tell you everything you need to know, and all you have to do is say, yes, no, what do you think? And you're done. Here's the crazy part. You don't have to have your trademark registered with USPTO.gov. I'm talking about approved to get brand registered. You apply, and then you get brand registered in as fast as a few weeks. It works, even before you sold a single product. Now they're gonna need proof, oh, you were selling a product, so they're probably gonna say, okay, open a Shopify website, add a product, show that it's for sale, and it is buyable. And assuming that your Shopify website has no ranking, it's not like someone's gonna go and buy the product. That's not difficult to do. You throw up a picture, you throw up your logo and say, look, this is mine. You're making claim. You're putting your stake in the ground and saying, this is my brand name. And you're brand registered. And you get all the advantages of brand registry. There is a fifth option. I know I didn't say there's a fifth option, but there is a fifth option. We call it our secret option, but it's not really a secret. It's called Done For You. If you're like Seth, look, I love learning this stuff, but I have capital, I don't have time. I don't want to take the time and hassle of doing all of this by myself. You guys have a combined 50 plus years of combined experience, so I would really rather pay you guys to do it all for me. Very simple, go to jod.com/DFY, stands for Done For You, and our team can take care of all of this for you. Now again, this is only for you if you have money over here you want to invest in the fastest growing market sector today on planet Earth. In fact, if you go back and look at the history of economics, there never has been a faster growing market sector than Amazon. It's utterly insane. Half of all online sales are Amazon. The market is just moving that way fast. I believe some of the most wealthy people in the world 3, 4, 5 years from now will be those who own Amazon stores. So what we're doing is we're partnering up with people who want us to help them. We put our experience together with your money, and together we make money. And we use a sliding scale so that we do not make money on the sale unless you make as much or more, and it's in the agreement as well. Go to jod.com/DFY. You have to apply to get approved. One thing to keep in mind, this is for you if you don't want to spend time running a business. You'd rather be what's called a silent investor. So we do all the work. You invest, we build, together we make money. jod.com/DFY. Earlier, I said I want to give you something for free, and it is. It's the CEASE DESIST letter. Below, you're gonna find a link where you can get this letter, and if you're currently selling on Amazon and you're struggling with hijackers, and I know the feeling, guys, you worked so hard to build this brand, and all of a sudden, your sales are stopping because one person's undercutting you, pretending to be a buyer and reseller. And just to be clear, they're pretending to be an arbitrager. They're pretending to do what is legal. I go to Walmart, I find something on a discount, I buy it, and I resell it for a higher price on a different platform. That's arbitrage. You take something of value, you put it in a different context, the value goes up. But if they're manufacturing the same product, that is breaking the law. Amazon doesn't know that. There's no way they can check to make sure where they got the product from. So what do? They are going to have some kind of proof that you are a serious brand owner. That's why trademarking and brand registry is so powerful. Hey, before you go, I got one more thing for you. I would love to know, of these 4 options, or maybe the 5th secret option, which one are you gonna use for your trademark? Tell me below, I would love to know. By the way, if this video was of a lot of value to you, make sure you smash the like button, click on the notification bell. That way, every time we come out with a new video, you'll be notified, and we'll continue to bring you awesome content. One more thing before I go. When you decide to get your...
Okay? We have a really bad hijacker infestation issue, and I'm trying to get Amazon on the line. Ah!
I have a problem to take care of. Don't forget, like and subscribe.